All right, let's dive into something pretty intense today.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking high-stakes diplomacy in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, imagine, you're trying to get a bunch of relatives who haven't talked in years to make peace.
Right.
But the house is on fire around them.
Oh, wow.
That's the kind of vibe we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
We've got these reports straight from Saudi Arabia
Okay.
about these urgent summits they're holding,
Mm-hmm.
trying to de-escalate the conflicts in Gaza and Lebanon.
Yeah, it's a powder keg situation for sure.
Yeah.
It's hard to overstate the urgency. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Widespread destruction, civilian casualties.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, a total nightmare.
And Lebanon, things are teetering on the edge there, too.
Yeah, it really feels like it could explode even further.
Okay.
The whole world's watching,
For sure.
hoping for some kind of miracle.
And into all this comes Saudi Arabia,
Yeah.
taking on a really central role here. I mean, they're not just hosting these summits.
Right.
They're really leading the push for some kind of diplomatic solution.
Yeah.
That's not their typical style.
Not exactly. No, they've historically played it a bit safer in these regional conflicts.
Right.
This proactive stance is a huge signal that they see this as a really serious situation.
Yeah, like a 5-alarm fire.
Yeah, exactly.
And the guest list is pretty interesting, too.
Oh, yeah.
We've got Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
Qatar, Turkey, Indonesia, Nigeria,
Wow.
and Palestine.
It's like they invited the whole extended family,
Yeah.
and not everyone gets along.
So what's the goal here?
All right.
I mean, what are they hoping to get out of this?
So the summit's objectives are pretty straightforward.
Okay.
An immediate ceasefire,
Okay.
protection for civilians,
Mm-hmm.
and getting aid into Gaza.
Right. The essential first steps.
Yeah, stop the bleeding, so to speak.
Right. But getting everyone to agree on those steps,
Yeah.
that's a whole other thing.
Whole other story.
Yeah. Speaking of making things happen,
Right.
I noticed in one of the reports,
Yeah.
they mentioned a ministerial committee that was formed during a previous Arab-Islamic Summit.
Uh-huh.
What's the deal with that?
Ah, good catch.
Yeah.
That committee is like the behind-the-scenes crew.
Oh, okay.
The folks working the phones trying to get global leaders on board with a plan.
Got it.
They've been pushing hard for a diplomatic solution.
So they're like the diplomatic stage managers,
Yeah, you could say that.
making sure everything runs smoothly.
Exactly.
What are they most concerned about?
Well, they've been very vocal about stopping the Israeli military operations that are causing so much devastation.
Mm-hmm.
They want safe passage for aid into Gaza.
Okay.
And they're calling out Israel for cutting off water and electricity,
Yeah.
saying it's a violation of international law.
That's a pretty bold stance.
It is.
Okay, so we've got these summits,
Yeah.
all this diplomacy going on. But how does any of this relate to someone listening in, say, Chicago or London?
Yeah.
It seems far away.
Yeah, that's what's so fascinating about situations like this.
Okay.
They might feel distant, but the effects can be felt globally.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
How so?
These conflicts can impact everything,
Okay.
from the price of gas to the stability of entire regions.
Wow.
We're talking energy markets, international relations, even the spread of extremism.
So it's all interconnected
It really is.
in ways we might not expect.
Exactly.
So even if you're not directly involved in the Middle East,
Right.
what happens there can affect you.
Yeah. Your daily life, even.
Wow. And that's what we'll be digging into even further when we come back for part 2 of this deep dive.
Looking forward to it.
We'll explore how these global events can hit close to home.
Yeah, some really interesting stuff.
Stick with us.
Mm.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Now, before the break, we were talking about how these conflicts in the Middle East,
Mm-hmm.
they can actually have a real impact on all of us,
Yeah.
even though they seem far away.
Right.
It's like the butterfly effect.
Uh-huh. A flap of wings in one part of the world
Yeah.
can cause a hurricane somewhere else.
It's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It really shows how interconnected we all are.
For sure.
Like take energy markets, for example.
Okay.
The Middle East is a huge oil producer.
Right.
Any disruption there
Yeah.
sends shockwaves through the entire system.
Wow.
Gas prices go up,
Yeah.
transportation costs skyrocket,
Yeah.
and everyone feels it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just our wallets either. We're talking
Yeah.
about global security, too.
Exactly.
These conflicts can create breeding grounds for extremism,
Yeah.
destabilize entire regions,
Mhm.
and lead to mass migrations.
It's a domino effect.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's why finding a solution,
Right.
a lasting peace,
Yeah.
is so important.
For everyone.
Yeah, not just for the people directly involved.
Right, for the whole world.
Exactly.
Now, we were talking about Saudi Arabia's role in this.
Yeah.
And how they're taking a more hands-on approach this time.
Makes you wonder what's motivating them.
Yeah, what's changed?
Right.
Well, there are a few things at play here.
Okay.
First, Saudi Arabia sees itself as a leader in the Muslim world.
Okay.
And they feel responsible to act in times of crisis.
It's like a big brother stepping in to stop a fight.
Exactly.
Right.
Plus, they also know that if these conflicts get out of control, it could spill over into their own backyard.
Right.
Destabilize the whole region.
So self-preservation too.
To a certain extent, yeah.
Oh.
But it's also about maintaining their influence.
Okay.
And their credibility on the world stage.
Got it.
Saudi Arabia wants to be seen as a peacemaker, a force for stability.
Yeah.
Not just a regional power, but a global one.
So they're playing diplomatic chess.
Yeah, you could say that.
Trying to be the adults in the room.
Right.
But let's be real. Diplomacy in the Middle East is like navigating a minefield.
It really is.
Can these summits actually make a difference?
A good question.
I mean, haven't we seen peace talks fail over and over again?
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
There are no guarantees here.
Right.
And the track record isn't great.
Yeah.
The issues are really complex.
For sure.
And there's a lot of bad blood.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we should give up on diplomacy.
Okay, so what are the signs that these summits are actually making progress?
Right.
That they're not just for show?
Well, the first sign would be a ceasefire agreement.
Okay.
If they can get everyone to stop fighting, even temporarily, that would be a big win.
A ceasefire would be huge.
Yeah.
What
another positive sign would be if they can agree on concrete steps to address the root causes of these conflicts.
Right, because if you don't deal with the underlying issues,
yeah,
it's just going to keep happening.
Exactly.
So what are some of those root causes?
Well, we're talking about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
Okay.
The political status of the Palestinians, and figuring out a way to guarantee security for everyone.
That's a tall order. It all feels very high level, world leaders making these big decisions.
Right.
But what about the people on the ground? The everyday people caught in the crossfire?
Yeah.
What can we do as individuals?
It's easy to feel powerless.
Yeah.
But there are things we can do.
Like what?
Staying informed is a good start.
Okay.
The more we understand about these conflicts,
yeah,
the better equipped we are to have meaningful conversations.
Right.
Advocate for change.
So it's about being aware.
Yeah.
Doing our homework.
Exactly.
Not just scrolling past the headlines.
Right.
And sometimes the best way to really connect with these issues is to hear from the people who are affected by them.
Absolutely.
Reading firsthand accounts, listening to personal stories.
Yeah, those can really bring home the human cost of these conflicts.
Yeah, because it's easy to get lost in the politics, the strategy.
Big picture stuff.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's about real people.
It is.
Whose lives are being turned upside down.
You got it.
So we need to keep the focus on that.
Yeah.
The human element, finding ways to coexist.
Exactly. Even when there are big disagreements.
As we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I just want to remind everyone that even though the situation in the Middle East is really complex and often really disheartening, there are people working hard to build a more peaceful future.
Absolutely.
And we could all play a part in that.
Yeah, even in small ways.
When we come back for the final part of our deep dive,
we're
going to be looking at what happens when those high-level summits meet the messy realities on the ground.
Right. The rubber meets the road.
Exactly. Don't go anywhere. Okay, we're back for the final part of our deep dive into these summits in Saudi Arabia. We've talked about the players, the goals, the global impact.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
It really has.
But there's one piece we haven't really talked about yet.
What's that?
The how do we actually make this work part?
Right. How do you go from these high-level talks to actual change on the ground?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, you can sign all the agreements you want, but if they just stay on paper, what's the point?
Exactly. It's not like everyone's going to suddenly stop fighting just because some diplomats had a meeting.
It's not that simple.
No.
We're talking about deep mistrust, ongoing violence.
That's humanitarian crisis.
It's a mess.
So how do you even begin to bridge that gap?
Between the diplomacy and the reality on the ground. It's the million-dollar question.
It really is.
And there's no easy answer.
Right.
It takes a lot of different things working together.
Okay.
You need ways to monitor any agreements that are made, enforce them.
So like a referee system.
Yeah, kind of.
Making sure everyone's playing by the rules.
Exactly. But it's not just about having rules.
Right.
It's about getting buy-in from everyone involved.
So you need the people on the ground to agree to the plan too.
You
Not just the leaders.
Right. You have to build trust, foster dialogue, create a sense of ownership over the peace process.
And who does that?
Well, it takes a whole network of people. International organizations, peacekeeping forces, aid groups.
All working together.
Exactly.
That sounds complicated.
It is.
Like a giant puzzle.
Yeah, where the pieces don't quite fit.
And the Middle East is already such a volatile region.
It is.
But haven't there been successful peace-building efforts in other places?
There have.
So what can we learn from those?
Well, the key is to learn from those successes,
Okay.
adapt the strategies, and tailor them to the specific situation.
So what are some of those key ingredients for success?
Well, one is commitment.
From who?
From everyone involved.
Okay.
Are they really invested in peace?
Right.
Or are they just playing games?
Because if it's just for show, it's not going to work.
Exactly.
Right.
What else? You also need international support. Are major powers willing to back this up?
Right.
Provide resources, diplomacy, maybe even troops?
Because without that, it's going to be really hard.
Yeah, an uphill battle.
And what about the people actually living through this conflict?
The civilians.
Yeah, are they being heard?
That's really important.
Yeah.
Any peace agreement has to be rooted in their needs.
Right, it can't just be imposed from above.
Exactly.
So it's a lot of factors
Internal and external.
that determine whether this will work.
Right.
It's not just about signing a paper.
It's about changing hearts and minds.
That's a long process.
It is.
A messy process.
Often frustrating, too.
So what are the long-term prospects for peace in the Middle East?
If I knew that,
Yeah.
I'd be a very rich person.
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is. It's puzzled people for generations.
But there's no easy answer.
No.
But you have to have hope, right?
Hope is essential.
As long as people are working for peace.
Yeah. Engaging in dialogue.
Yeah, do bridges.
Instead of walls.
Yeah. There's always a chance.
There is.
That's a good note to end on.
Yeah, I think so.
To our listeners, stay curious.
Yeah.
Keep learning.
Absolutely.
And never underestimate your own voice.
Even small actions can make a difference.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah. It was a great conversation.
And we'll see you next time.